Hi, welcome to Cut Both Ways. I'm Ray.
I'm Kiki.
Today we're talking about Book of Boba Fett, and we're also going to be doing The Kingsman ASAP. But we may replace that with, well, what is it? What's coming out tomorrow? Critical Role, the Legend of Vox Machina thing. So, who knows what we'll do next week. Or maybe, what was the other thing? Morbius or...
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker. Could be one of those. If you have an opinion, let us know. Otherwise, spoilers today for John Wick and for The Mandalorian and basically every Star Wars thing ever. Welcome to Book of Boba Fett, the new Star Wars serial that just finished airing on the Big D.
Yeah, you know what? It must be depressing to be the titular character of your own show and still be the B plot.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I don't think that's the first thing that we should talk about. I feel like, let's get into it. Let's talk about what it was about. What do you think?
Well, okay, so, it's set so that part of it takes place through flashbacks, right? So,
yeah, it's like flashing back to what happened, because when we met Boba Fett, he was, kind of raggedy and dying, and they didn't really explain what happened to him. They, obviously he found that Rancor, or not Rancor, Sarlacc, and then got out somehow. I would have preferred that they left that mystery. I think not everything needs an explanation, and I think a lot of shows suffer from going too into detail with explaining why everything is. I think leaving some things to the viewer to just come up with their own reason for how it happened is fine.
Well, you said that it was a reference to Parks and Rec, right?
I don't know that it was a reference to Parks and Rec, but in Parks and Rec, one of the characters talks about, he's filibustering and he's talking about how, here's my fan fiction of how they can reintroduce Boba Fett, and the way he explains it is exactly how it happened in the show. Like literally, cut to the Sarlacc pit, the hand explodes out of the sand. So it's hard to think that they weren't doing that on purpose, but they might have just literally not done that on purpose.
I hope that they were. I think it's kind of cute that the showrunners were just fans enough of Parks and Rec to be like, let's just do that.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun reference, basically.
I think it's fun. The thing that is happening though is it's a reference within a reference. And so it's like this character Boba Fett has never been a big character. And like you said,
I'd never heard of him. Honestly, I didn't remember who he was.
Yeah,
you had to explain it to me, Oliver.
But like you said, even still, he's not a big character.
No.
This show shouldn't have been called The Book of Boba Fett.
No.
It should have been called The Crimes on Tatooine or something like that.
Yeah, maybe.
Or The Book of Tatooine.
Yeah, sure.
Because it was more about the crime happenings and politics of Tatooine and the characters that are all involved in that. Because it's it starts out about Boba Fett taking over for Jabba the Hutt, who Bib Fortuna took over for him. Bib Fortuna is the one they shot in the post-credit scene. Who, that's also a wasted character right there. Bib Fortuna probably has as much screen time, if not more screen time, than Boba Fett in the original Star Wars trilogy, where he's just some side character. People loved him. They gave him a name for some reason. And then people just latched onto Boba Fett. They latched onto him so hard. And I understand. He looks cool. He has a very cool look. But my biggest problem with the ideation of Boba Fett is that, Star Wars has cool looks, It's kind of one of their strongest things that they do is that everyone looks really cool.
Yeah.
The designs of characters are awesome. Stormtroopers, Darth Vader, the Emperor, Luke's costumes, all of these are iconic.
That's a fair point. Yeah, everything is very...
They're all pretty iconic.
Yeah.
Jawas, the Sand People, Tusken Raiders.
Yeah.
I feel like calling them Sand People is a bit, offensive at this point, and we should probably stop referring to them as that.
Yeah. Because
it's a real life slur.
Is it? I didn't know that.
What are those teddy people called? The cute little teddies in episode...
Jawas.
No. Jawas are the hooded guys with glowing eyes. Teddies from episode 6 of Star Wars. It's so confusing to reference the movies and not the show now.
Teddies?
From Return of the Jedi.
I don't know.
whatever. Ewoks.
Yeah, okay.
That's one thing that was happening also, though, where I was like, oh, yeah, I remember in episode 4 where, not episode 4 of the show, episode 4, like Star Wars episode 4, the movie A New Hope, and it's like, it was just getting like weird to have to explain which episode 4 you're talking about.
I gotta say, though, you'd think after making episodes 1 through 3, they'd have realized that fans are not really interested in the bureaucratic goings-on of the galaxy.
Yeah, and they tried really hard to make this about that.
Which is just such a strange choice, seeing as that's one of the biggest criticisms of, like, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, and, like, I definitely think there's a bit more respect for episode 1, 2, and 3 now. People are looking back and being like, okay, they're not as bad as we thought they were, primarily because of how bad 7, 8, 9 have been.
Yeah.
But, people are looking back and they're realizing, oh, we were a bit too hypercritical of this. Some of the CGI is very dated and it was not very good at the time even. But, we can look past that now. It's got interesting sort of plot elements. Mm-hmm. But that's the big thing is they focus so much on these political aspects. The emperor, or not the emperor, the chancellor or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the the happenings of the Jedi and how they like interact with the Senate and stuff like that. And it just took away from the cool Star warring.
Yeah, it's kind of absurd to me that they're like, oh, space Western, let's focus on all of the administrative details.
There's a cool thing they could have done here, though. They could have made this a very, like, Godfather crime syndicate kind of movie. Or even, like, who's that director that does really good, like, crime movies? He did, like, what's his name?
Martin Scorsese?
No, he did, like I want to say, like, Lucky Number 11 and, like, oh, God. It's as soon as I try to remember a thing, all the information just deletes from my brain. Guy Ritchie. Yeah, my phone's going crazy. Guy Ritchie, yeah. So they could have done a cool like crime, like made it a bit quirkier, a bit like more lighthearted, because these shows like cannot be rated R. So you can't do like a Martin Scorsese style crime film.
Of course. I mean, they're on Disney Plus, and I feel like this show could have been marketed to children. I'm sure they are. I'm sure that there are like tie-ins with toys and stuff as well.
It really felt like a lot of the characters that they've introduced in this were toy tie-ins. Like him riding the Rancor, the biker gang, the other biker gang.
Yeah.
the biker gang gangs. And then the like Power Ranger colored biker gang. Yeah. Like that's one thing we talked about. Those like 4 kids, the like mod crew, I think they're called.
I don't understand the design of those characters as a part of Star Wars.
Yeah, they were way too colorful, and like they were way too colorful. Their color palette just felt outside of what is ever been in Star Wars.
I have never seen colors that bright except maybe like a bright red in like Padme's wardrobe. Like other than that, it's just too bright. Have you ever seen anything that bright in Star Wars?
It's weird. And also it's on Tatooine, which Tatooine is supposed to be one of the Outer Rim planets that like no one goes to.
Yeah.
And so things like functioning technology are supposed to be hard to come by.
Yeah.
That's why the Jawas exist at all. Is that there's scavengers that they pull together technology that works and then sell it to whoever they can sell it to.
Yeah, it was a very strange idea.
Very strange that, you can basically die and then go to these mod people and they'll just like turn you half robot and you're fine. Mm-hmm. It's like, that doesn't feel in theme with Star Wars to me. Mm-hmm. The Bacta tank was fine. That I totally believe.
Yeah, and I would believe that Jabba the Hutt had one. Yeah. Although I don't know how he would fit into that particular one.
Well, he used it for his minions or something like that, we'll say. And
that seems unusually gracious of him, though. Here, have the use of my
when you've got a like wicked fucking knuckle duster Wookiee, sometimes he gets stabbed in the gut and you gotta throw him in a Bacta tank.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite character. Cardamom? I don't remember his name.
Chrysanthemum, yeah.
He was the coolest. I would rather have a full show about him than Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And I've had Boba Fett toys as a kid.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, I guess I wish they'd waited for the Han Solo movie to they could have done a show instead. The movie wasn't very good from what I hear. I haven't actually seen it.
Sorry, I got distracted.
There was a Han Solo movie, right?
Oh, yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah. I didn't bother watching it. The writing was on the wall and I was like, I just don't care.
Yeah, it was kind of meh. Like it wasn't like bad. Like there was nothing in it that I was like, that's so dumb. Like maybe the way he meets Chewbacca was like kind of dumb. Because it's just like one of those things where they just throw two characters that were together in the show and be like, here's how they met. They just spontaneously met. There's no reason for them meeting.
They could have done like a Cowboy Bebop style show.
Yeah.
Where like I feel
I've actually
like
never seen Cowboy Bebop.
Well, I've seen some of it. Enough to say that I probably wouldn't be interested in watching it.
Yeah.
I know it's a fantastic show. Like, that's just not the issue here. The point is that I don't generally enjoy Westerns.
Yeah, and that was another thing I was saying, is that Mandalorian nailed the Western theme. They really, like, got it. They really did. It's got a very, like, wolf and cub, like, samurai Western kind of feeling to it, where he's this, like, warrior with this creed, and he has the responsibility of taking a child thrust on him, and so he has to go out into the greater universe to figure out how to take care of this child. Lots of parallels you can draw to old like film and television. Absolutely.
I was so surprised at how much I liked The Mandalorian. I wasn't expecting to, and I don't generally enjoy other things in the genre of Western, like I said.
Neither do I. Neither did I. I never expected to like it. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I have a Star Wars tattoo. But I can recognize that everything outside of 4, 5, and 6, and even a lot of the stuff in 4, 5, and 6 now, is not that good.
Yeah.
It's nostalgic, and like, you know, sorry to Star Wars fans. I feel like I'm inevitably people are gonna be like, you have a shitty opinion. You don't like Marvel, you don't like Star Wars. Why the fuck are you talking about movies? These are like the two hugest cultural like franchises in our world right now.
It's okay to be fond of something and still be critical of it.
Yeah, I think that's an important takeaway for our listeners. Please don't hate me. I have a Star Wars tattoo. I'm a big Star Wars fan.
He's a really big Star Wars fan.
On my like 8th birthday or something, my whole family was like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I couldn't come up with the thing to do. So we literally just went into our costume chest and made makeshift Star Wars costumes and reenacted all 3 movies of Star Wars as a kid.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
So cute. I got to be Luke, of course. And my sister was Chewbacca, and my other sister was Leia, I want to say. And yeah, it was awesome. I will never forget that birthday because I remember it so much. My whole family doesn't remember, but I'm like, no, that was my shit. Star Wars was my thing.
Yeah, and he can just rattle off facts and names, and it's obsessive.
My brother-in-law, he like is this huge Star Wars fan that I don't remember if you were there for that. He's a big Star Wars fan. He thinks himself like the number one Star Wars fan.
Definitely not there for that.
He has a copy of Star Wars Trivial Pursuit, and I like mopped the floor with him.
Wow. I believe it. Like every time we watch something that is related to Star Wars, he will be sitting there rattling off backstory, which I really appreciate because I don't remember. I saw the films maybe like twice.
The other thing is like I didn't read much of the extended novels that they came out with that are now not canon, I realize. I didn't read a lot of them. I read the what was it called? It was about the Yuuzhan Vong, which was like what the story originally was supposed to evolve into, which I'll touch on later. They're very confusing, but very cool. But a lot of the in-between stories, like the Clone Wars show, I never watched those shows because I never thought that they were too accurate to what I liked about Star Wars. Because I always found that Star Wars was a samurai Western, a samurai sci-fi Western. It's got this very, like, I have a sword and I have to defeat, like, the evil empire, which is a very, like, 7 samurai story.
Yeah.
Like, though we don't have an army and we don't have these, like, the like level of technology, I guess, of our foe, our like belief in ourself and our creed is what lets us do this. And so you can draw parallels with The Mandalorian to that. That's why I think I liked The Mandalorian, because I saw a lot of what I liked about Star Wars in The Mandalorian. He was, instead of a samurai, he's a gunslinger, although they're giving him a sword now, so I guess he's kind of going to be a samurai anyway. But it's like they had this opportunity to do something different that maybe felt cool, because Boba Fett, people love him for no reason.
Yeah, and they did set him up to be like a crime boss, but it just wasn't like a very believable one, I guess.
The problem is they set him up to be a ruthless crime boss. Like he shows up at Jabba's palace, sees Bib Fortuna, shoots him on the spot.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
Yeah.
No, like, Are you doing good things for the community? Are you taking care of people? Let me figure stuff out about you. No, just shoots him, takes over.
Well, and then he's unusually kind for the rest of the show.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Then the rest of the show, he's very like nurturing. Like, no, I'm gonna like, even though maybe you appear to be evil, I'm gonna like figure out what's wrong with you. Like with the Tusken Raiders, where he's like, though you have me captive, I'm gonna help you and join you and like learn your ways.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna go to this like other crime boss. I'm not gonna kill you. I'm gonna talk to you and figure out how we can make an alliance. Yeah. Why did he go and just murder Bib Fortuna?
Yeah, and then those 4 kids, he's just like, instead of just murdering them on the spot, he's like, no, you lower the price of water and you can come work for me.
Exactly.
It's just unusually kind.
It's very like as the second he sat in that throne, he was like, and now I'm a good person.
Yeah.
It's like up until then, his character has been completely different. And I just think it was bad. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it. I don't want to like.
Yeah. I guess that's really what makes this feel like a kid's show.
Mm-hmm. It really feels like a kid's show. And Boba Fett was this childish character. He has like 2 lines, I think, where in episode 5, Darth Vader's like talking to his like row of bounty hunters, and he's like, remember, I want him captured alive. And then he points at Boba Fett and he goes, no disintegrations. And Boba Fett's like, all right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it implied this level of like, he's this like disintegrating madman that goes around killing all his bounties.
Right.
And then he's the only one that catches them. So it implies that he's smarter than, again, Darth Vader and all these bounty hunters, because they like, it's that. Do you remember episode 5 and 6 at all? Like, really, they land on an asteroid and then it turns out to be a monster and it tries to eat them. They land on an asteroid to escape from the Empire, and then the Empire's looking for them.
Yeah, I do remember this.
The Empire's looking for them, and then they keep going past the asteroid field, and then they fly out of the asteroid. And they're like, oh no, it's a monster. But then you see Boba Fett detached from the asteroid too, and he's like, haha, I got you. And you're like, whoa, Boba Fett like figured out that they like he's smart, you know. He has the mind of Han Solo, basically.
He was pretty inconsequential in this. I was just thinking through and going like, could the story have happened without Boba Fett at all? Mm-hmm. And it kind of could.
It really could. This could have been about Fennec Shand.
Yeah.
Stand?
Yeah.
Shand? I can't remember how her last name. Shand.
Yeah.
It could have been about Fennec. Fennec is way cooler, but because she was a side character, she got sidelined. And because Boba Fett's the main character, and even he got sidelined, she got sidelined.
Yeah.
And that sucked.
But she was very cool.
She's very cool. I care more about her. I care more about, like, why is she now deciding to be a good person?
Mm-hmm.
Because she was this ruthless sharpshooter, the assassin that people know. She shows up and they're like, you could only be one person, Fennec Shand. Please don't kill me, basically. And she's like, well, I'm working for Boba Fett now, so you're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't remember the first 4 episodes very well. I feel like the Hutts arriving was like pretty useless.
Yeah, the Hutts arriving was so useless.
Like it could have been left out entirely, except we got
Chrysanthemum.
Chrysanthemum, yes.
I don't know what his name is. Cardamom.
Chrysanthemum.
Capybara.
Chrysanthemum.
Yeah, Chrysangel. Yeah, he was cool, but he's a Wookiee, so he doesn't get lines, which is like super waste of characters when they like. I am totally fine with characters talking other languages and then someone else translating for them, but that's why Chewbacca worked. Han Solo was always translating for him, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It was always implied that they all understand what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
They never really have him, Chrysanthemum, say or do anything that has other people like understand him and who he is as a character. He's just a meat stick.
Yeah.
But his design was really cool. Yeah, his design was so cool. He could have definitely gone places, but they never gave him a character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he escapes the Sarlacc. He gets taken in by the Tuskens. And, like, it's funny to me later on that he's just like, the Tuskens showed me all this kindness and stuff. Yeah. And, like, he started off as their slave.
Yeah.
Which, like,
and they tied him to a stick and, like, made him dig for water. It's like, they showed that they have this other side, but they've never shown the Tusken Raiders to be kind people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, he gets found by the Tuscans, captured, taken in, he kills that sand creature, and then they're like, oh, maybe we like you.
Yeah.
Then there's that whole train heist.
Yeah, that wasn't awful.
Yeah, no, it was fine.
But that was the moment I realized they're just doing a Western again. Train heist is very Western.
Yeah.
Why is this show just doing what The Mandalorian's doing? This should have been something completely different.
Yeah. But then only half of it is even about Boba Fett, and then we go back to The Mandalorian, so I guess...
Yeah, Episode 5 is the return of The Mandalorian.
If it were a different genre, I guess that wouldn't have worked as well. And so maybe that's why.
It shouldn't have happened at all.
Yeah, it's true. It felt like, look, it was the highlight of the show, okay?
It was, yeah. It was definitely
really
the best thing to happen, but it feels like it shouldn't have happened.
But it was inappropriate.
It felt like a teaser for season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
A teaser that went so far as to be basically a pilot for the new Mandalorian season.
I get that The Mandalorian was really popular and they were trying to sort of, cash in on that popularity.
Yeah.
But having an entire other show basically gutted to become about The Mandalorian.
Yeah, and then to become about the child, Grogu.
Yeah.
And then to become about the choice of Grogu to go back to The Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's just money grabbing, basically.
That feels like the quintessential thing that happened in this show.
Yeah, it's true. And I didn't think that they would show it. I thought that we'd see the choice being presented to Grogu.
Yeah. And then maybe we'd find out in episode 1 of The Mandalorian season 3.
Exactly. I thought that's where they would cut it and be like, this is just a teaser.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
We
found out immediately.
It really feels like so it really feels like at the beginning of this show and at the end of the show, the only circumstances that have changed is that the child has gone back to the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, Boba Fett is still the crime boss. He's got the same personality. He hasn't come to any sort of revelations or character development.
Yeah.
All he's done is acquire more minions for his crime syndicate.
Yeah. And the
which
minions
is barely a crime
are,
syndicate at this point.
Fennec. The 2 Boar guys fell off the cliff, so I don't know what happened to them.
Not the Boar brothers.
Yeah.
It was so sad.
So you have Fennec, you have Dark Chewbacca.
Yeah.
You have those 4 kids.
I think some of them died in that gunfight too.
You think so? No, I don't think so. I think they introduced those 4 kids because you get those bright colors for toy tie-ins.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I don't think that they'd have bothered to kill them off.
I feel like that end, and I want to bring this up because it was something both of us laughed our asses off at. There was that end shot with, I think it's Fennec, the girl with the robot arm, and the guy with the robot eye, and they do a slow-mo, pulling at their weapons, shooting, and then the robot eye guy does this, ballerina spin, and we're just like, what was that? What?
It was really unnecessary.
So unnecessary.
I don't see that it was useful.
It was wild, gun flourish, and I was like, what is even happening? Because I feel like those were the only characters that were left. I feel like everyone else was dead.
I don't think so. I think they were just off screen. I don't think they'd have bothered to kill them off. There was no point in killing them off, right? And you're just going to kill off a toy tie-in, so there's no point in doing that.
Well, then it's in memoriam. No, I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't know that the other characters stood out too much either. The other 2 or 3 biker kids. I feel like they're called the mods.
I don't know. I don't know what they're called. I don't especially care.
Yeah. But this also felt like it was trying to set up other spin-off shows. It felt like it was trying to set up Ahsoka Tano and Luke Skywalker maybe as a spin-off shows. It looked like it was trying to set up the sheriff as a spin-off.
Has it ever been implied that Luke and Ahsoka had a thing?
No. I mean, I don't know. I didn't watch the show with Ahsoka Tano. I watched the movie that was a pilot for the show because I got free tickets to go see it. It was a really bad movie. But the show apparently was very good. Everyone loved the show. And it was mostly about her. She was the new apprentice of Anakin.
Yeah.
And then I don't think it's implied that they're a thing.
Okay. Because I feel like that's the direction that this show would take if there were a spinoff. Because, like, what else are you going to do with a male and female lead?
I mean, no, why? So we also finally watched The Kingsman, and that's like another thing that happened in that too.
It's very cynical of me, but that's how I feel. That's how I feel about it.
I agree with you. I completely agree with you that's how I feel too. Anytime they do that, they introduce a character, male, female, even if they're different fucking species from alien planets, if they're like implied female-ish and implied male-ish, they hook them up.
Yeah. I don't know that they'll hook up, seeing as the Jedi are like basically...
Yeah, like, but they kind of... I'm not going to get into the whole Star Wars like politics and what the story is supposed to be about, but the idea originally was that the Jedi aren't good people. Like the way of the Jedi, quotation marks, isn't a good thing.
Yeah, I don't see how it could be. Like this, there's a reason why they take children to be Jedi. Children will be very like they're easy to brainwash. You can be like, don't you want to be a hero? Don't you want to be powerful?
Don't you want to have magic powers?
Yeah, exactly. Forgo all human connection.
Yeah.
I mean, like, human in the loose term of, like, forgo all connection, forgo family.
Yeah, and that's why, like, in the long story of Star Wars, it is sort of meant to be that the Jedi, though they're represented to be the light, quotation mark, side of the Force, they're not the good guys.
Yeah.
They're not these, like, paragons of virtue. They're supposed to be, like, basically, like a cult.
Yeah. I mean, take the Jedi. If you took any reasonable adult and you were like, would you exchange everything in your life that you have, that you love, that you care about, would you instead give it up for this sword? And like,
it's a laser sword, so I mean, that's pretty tempting. Like, it's a bad example.
Get out of my house.
Okay. Is there a laser sword outside of your house?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't feel like any reasonable person would make that decision. And so
it's sort of implied to be this level of like self-sacrifice, like, oh, you must like train in the ways of the Force for the greater good because you will be this like warrior of virtue. But it's shown that it's, if you even slightly change your mind, you end up being a monster like Darth Vader. And so it's like,
it's a crappy lifestyle. I feel like they all need therapy, like a lot of therapy.
So, like, yeah, the overarching kind of story is that, like, the Jedi aren't good guys, and it's hard to tell that story when your protagonist is a Jedi. So I think they could do something there. They did it really well, I think, in a few moments in the prequel trilogy, 1, 2, and 3, where they show that, like, the Jedi are these kind of, like, overbearing, kind of forceful people that, like, say, like, if you don't follow our ways, like, get the fuck out, basically. And, I'll go back to what I was talking about with the Yuzhan Vong, which, like, I don't know the full story. I only read most of the first book. Is that, like, the Force, quotation marks, is all, they say it's all about, like, balance, you know, the balance of the Force. And what's his face, George Lucas, was setting up this thing that, like, anytime these, like, Jedi become too strong, then the Sith will become as strong, and then if the Jedi become weak, then it's like, you know, it goes back and forth. So what we're
saying is that we should just kill all of them?
Yes, that's sort of what it ends up being, is I think in the long term. I read this thing that was like the original sort of script for 7, 8, 9 was about how they realize this back and forth between Sith and Jedi is the reason the galaxy is so fucked. Those planets are being blown up. So in order to bring actual balance, you need to completely delete the Force. The Force is what is causing this back and forth of balance. Right.
Yeah, but except 7, 8, 9 went the way of, like, YA novel instead of space western.
Yeah, it was, I don't even want to talk about it.
Traumatized.
If they make another movie, we'll talk about it. But we're talking about the show right now. Yeah. I'd rather talk more about the Mandalorian and, like, the other shows that they've done, because this show also, the Book of Boba Fett, brought in elements that hadn't sort of been wrapped up in the Clone Wars. They brought in that bounty hunter, the, like, really Western bounty hunter guy, the blue-faced man with the tubes.
Oh, right.
Cade?
Yeah.
Was that his name?
Hold up, I wrote it down. Cade Bane.
Sure. He was a big part, I think, of the Clone Wars. He was like the this bounty hunter that like they just couldn't get away from. He was like strong enough they could fight against Jedi type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was a big character that they kept bringing back that everyone really liked. But because the Clone Wars kind of didn't get the opportunity to wrap up a lot of its stories, they're wrapping them up now in these live action stories.
Well, and then by virtue of being a cartoon, the Clone Wars, I feel like were more aimed at the younger audience. Were they? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know about the 3D animated one. I did watch the 2D animated one, and it is pretty gruesome. There is some it introduces General Grievous. I don't know if you remember him, the big like spinny saber guy.
Well, then maybe it was like a budget thing or something where they made a cartoon instead of a live action.
I think they didn't want to. They wanted to do it as a cartoon because originally it was like a 2D cartoon, and then they made it into a 3D cartoon. And so I think they wanted to do that because they could do more things with it. You could have more like elaborate alien creatures type things.
Sure, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like paying for that sort of thing in live action is very expensive.
It was also really bad when they did it in 1, 2, and 3. And no one liked it. And so now that I think technology has come to the point where we can do that, I think they're sort of more inclined to want to do that.
That makes sense.
But so at least the 2D cartoon was really mature. It was really much about like the war. It was about the Clone Wars and like people were dying left and right, Jedi and soldier alike. And so I think the show that followed after that, the 3D one, was more mature.
Well, there was also like Lego Clone Wars, right?
That was video games, I think.
Was it?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure
I just
it's just video
remember
games.
my brother was a huge fan.
Like maybe, yes, there was a Lego show, but I think that was just like its own thing. But so they have done these really mature shows. And then to the Book of Boba Fett, though it has some mature things like the pigmen falling off a cliff to their death, like sad as fuck. You killed those characters, and like
it wasn't particularly significant, though.
It wasn't particularly significant, and there wasn't too much in terms of mature themes.
Yeah, I agree with that. You could have gone with like this whole, because they were like going to have a war. Like that's basically where we leave episode 4, right? Like they're gonna go to war with the Pikes, basically. And then Fennec's like, let's go hire help, and that's how we get to the Mandalorian.
Yeah, and actually, funny thing, the episode with the Mandalorian is way more gruesome than the whole show. When he pulls out that darksaber and cuts through the like meat and the guy.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
that's gruesome. That's pretty gruesome.
Pretty gruesome.
And yet your crime boss, like super murderer, who's like known for disintegrating people.
Yeah.
He doesn't shoot people like at all. I don't think he fired his gun until that last episode.
Yeah. And then mysteriously, when someone suggests that they should just stop selling spice because it's a drug and that's bad for people, the crime boss is like, absolutely, we should not do that because it's going to harm the citizens. And it's like, what?
What crime boss would do that? They'd be like, oh, a drug market? No, I'm just going to capitalize on that.
Yeah. It was just bizarre. It was like, what? I don't understand how the world works like that, except unless you're explaining it to children.
Yeah, hold on. Okay.
Yeah, so we join up with the Mandalorian again. This is really where it feels like they're starting to set up another show, right?
Yeah, because like you felt the same way I felt at the end of season 2. I was like, this is a good cap. This is a good end to the Mandalorian show.
I just couldn't see where they would go with it because the child's been returned to the Jedi. Presumably that's the end of that arc because
not even just that. I felt like it was a good conclusion.
Yeah,
it felt like a very heartwarming wrap up of all the themes of the show. Like there was the implications of what to do with the Darksaber and the Mandalorian girl. I've forgotten her name. The girl who wants to be the leader of Mandalore.
Oh yeah.
Like maybe something was
Bo-Katan?
going on. Bo-Katan, yeah. There were maybe something there. Like you could have drawn a story from, but I did really feel like this was a good end to the show, The Mandalorian.
Well, yeah, and especially when you consider into the future, Grogu's going to be a child for several lifetimes, it's implied. He goes back to the Mandalorian, he's going to be a toddler for the rest of the Mandalorian's life. And then when he dies, inevitably, because he is not a long-lived species, what's going to happen to Grogu exactly? This is sort of like, this is a very dark sort of timeline that we're going down now.
Yeah, so they say that Grogu is 50 years old. And Grogu...
And he's still a toddler.
He's still a toddler, but Grogu is the same species as Yoda.
Yeah.
Yoda was 900 years old.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, so Grogu will be like, what, maybe 100 when the Mandalorian dies? If we're lucky, because the Mandalorian has a very, dangerous job.
Yeah, dangerous lifestyle.
Like, given his lifestyle, he's probably not going to die of old age.
Yeah.
It's just like, what's going to happen to Grogu after that?
But even so, even if they keep going with this and they have it be this sort of like long-going story, they're going to have to slowly make Grogu more mature, because they're kind of already doing that with him sort of relearning his Force powers and remembering the Jedi Temple. He can't not talk forever.
Yeah.
And he eventually will start to contribute, because he can't always be the baby in the basket the whole time, because that's just zero character progression.
Yeah, it's just going to be so boring if that's all that he is.
So then the alternative is he starts to take a more proactive role, and that is going to be silly, I think.
Yeah,
they tried to do it with Yoda in episode 2,
dear.
where he busted out a lightsaber and did some flips and kicked the shit out of Count Dooku. Funny.
It looked very funny.
It was funny and kind of
I
maybe a little bit cool.
Because it looked very funny.
But in the end, it was mostly just stupid and ridiculous.
Yeah, it did look a little ridiculous. I also hope that they don't make him talk like Yoda. Well, not just that, but like the sentence structure and everything. But then I don't...
Hello?
It's gonna happen again. I don't see how they're going to present him. Like, I feel like any way they present him talking is just not going to work. Right? Like...
So it was a good cap to have him be like, go off to the Jedi, train in their ways.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah, exactly.
Roll credits, you're done.
Yeah, I just don't see where it's supposed to go from there.
Mandalorian
but anyway.
should have been a side character. I think it would be fine if they want to keep this character active, have him be a side character. Have it be like more about Boba Fett or about Bo-Katan.
Well, okay, so no. I think they brought Grogu back because people were obviously like, this is the best thing you've ever done.
Yeah.
But I can see a storyline because he goes back to the Armorer and Paz Vizsla, and then they reveal to him that the dark saber kind of means that you're the rightful king of Mandalore.
Yeah, they said that in the last one too, at the end of Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah, they did, but they reaffirmed that, and then he reveals that he took off their mask, and they're like, "That is super not okay. You need to go make amends."
No, they say they don't say go make amends. He begs them to let him make amends. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and so, but the way to do that is to go to the mines under Mandalore, and it was like, okay, I see where this is going. He's gonna go into the mines under Mandalore. He's gonna go on his spirit journey, like the hero's journey quest, and he's gonna end up under Mandalore, and he's going to find some way to recover Mandalore or something like that. Some sort of important mission.
He's gonna find probably one of those what are they called? I want to say sieges, but that's from Dune.
Yeah.
He's gonna find
I mean, this
one of
felt
those little hideaways. Of
Mandalorians.
And
then there's going to be Mandalorians, and now he's got this purpose. He needs to lead them back into the light and recover Mandalore. And I was like, okay, you know what? That's a decent story. I could get behind that. But then they bring Grogu back, and it's he might still do that, but this adds more complications that I don't think that can be resolved.
I think they could have done something interesting with him being a side character for a while and have that happening in the side of all of these spin-off shows they're doing, because they're doing a bunch of them now. Like I said, they're doing Ahsoka Tano. They're doing an Obi-Wan Kenobi show. They just released the poster for
Interesting.
They're doing, I think, Brain, You Can Work. They're doing a bunch of them. Who cares what they are?
Yeah.
They're doing 7 or 8 shows now, and they're all within this time period of the Star Wars universe.
That's cool.
So you could have had this happening in the background of all these shows, and that could be interesting.
Cool.
An interesting way to tie it all together. That between episodes 6 and 7, the plot line is about the Mandalorians sort of regaining their status in the Empire, or in the galaxy, I guess. It's not the Empire anymore.
I'd like to backtrack for a minute. It's funny that you should bring up Dune. Yes. Because I feel like Boba Fett's journey with the Tuskens is basically going to be the plot of the next Dune movie. Very like Moses type of thing, where he wanders into the desert and then is basically taken in by this tribe, but he's like subservient to them because he has nothing, and then he like proves himself and rises up to become their leader. Yeah. It's basically Moses, right? Yeah.
And anyone who's read the Dune books is going to be like, well, yeah, that's what happens in the books. It's like, yeah, the reason it happened in the books, and the reason why we're predicting it without having read the books, it's an overdone story. It's old. It's as old as the literal Bible.
Yeah. You know what? It's a like 3,000-year-old trope. So
yeah, you can do something different. And Boba Fett did not do anything different.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Dune, this is less of a criticism because you have the source material and you're not about to change it.
But still. Dune isn't that old enough to be like, it wasn't copying anything.
Oh, yeah, this was revolutionary.
Yeah. No, it's still copying.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but yeah, so this was basically the plot of Dune 2. I now feel like I've watched the whole movie and don't need to go to theaters to watch it. Man, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, this show was worse, though. I think Dune will at least be beautiful because Don Villeneuve, or whatever his name is pretty good at visual stuff.
Yeah.
And I think all the actors that they got are pretty good. But back to Star Wars. One thing that they've been doing lately that I think I hate more than almost anything is they set up these like baby style Chekhov's guns. Like, it feels like the Chekhov's gun for an infant, where they're like, here's a thing, and eventually we're gonna like pay it off. Yeah. Example, the Rancor. With the like Danny Trejo being like, oh, there were these legendary Rancor riders.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah. Apparently, all it took was like 1 5-minute lesson because we never see the Rancor
never see that,
again.
And there's been no downtime in this show. There's implied downtime when he gets to the Tusken Raiders. They say he's been here for like over a year or something like that. And I was like, I did not realize that much time has passed. But there's no implied downtime once he takes over as a crime boss. Yeah, so when did he have the time to learn to ride this Rancor? And to like have the Rancor be okay with him.
He just puts like his hand on the Rancor's head the one time, and that's enough apparently. Or like undying loyalty. Undying loyalty,
and the knowing how to guide it while riding on its back.
Yeah. It was also kind of like unnecessary. It didn't really help much in battle.
The other example is the singing birds or whatever, the like little wrist missiles.
Right. I think those look really stupid. I wish they'd not done that.
But it's the same thing where they go like, oh, here's this powerful thing. Use it in the most like dire of circumstance, and then when the time comes, he does. He uses it like immediately, basically, to be like, exactly. Oh, I'm surrounded by guys.
He doesn't. No, that's what I'm saying. He never waits for like the direst circumstance.
It doesn't give it this like gravity of importance. It's just sort of like, oh, I can use it right now. Do it. Like Rancor is like, oh, there's something bigger than people. Let me go get my Rancor.
Yeah.
And then let me like get off my Rancor, and he'll just like walk away.
Yeah. The other really jarring thing in this show was the design of those droids, though, at the end. Mm-hmm. They looked like they were out of, like, I don't know, some other sci-fi franchise.
They look like they were out of Terminator.
Yeah. Terminator, I was thinking of, like, what was I thinking of? I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I think so. What they were trying to do was make them the upgraded versions of these guys, droidicas. Do you remember these guys?
No.
They're like the roly-poly droids in episode 1. I think they're in episode 2 and 3 as well. Doesn't matter. Those droids show up, and they're fighting all these guys and deflecting their bullets back at them with their lightsabers. They roll up. They have a force field. Ooh, how do you fight something with a force field? And then that was like the thing in episode 1.
I mean, they don't seem to have learned how to fight things in a force field since then.
Yeah.
They tried all sorts of, like, obviously not going to work things. Mm-hmm.
It was a bad fight, I think. I think those two droids, like, they did a lot of, like, there's hordes of enemies. Like, how do they have this many soldiers? Like, they just keep coming. I have
That's
another
just
point.
a problem in general.
It's a problem in general with a lot of things, but let me talk about something and then I'll get back to it. They have these hordes of enemies. The enemies leave when the big bosses show up. So the droids show up, they have to fight the droids for a little while. There's no enemies there for a while, for a long time when they're fighting the droids. They do eventually come back, but there's a solid, like, 10 minutes of fighting without people and just the droids. Then Cad Bane shows up or whatever. It's just him. He's all alone. He doesn't have anyone with him. If these syndicate bosses, the fish people, I don't remember what they're called. The Pikes. If these people are these, like, master crime bosses, you send everything at once. They're all just there. You bomb them from the atmosphere.
Yeah, it doesn't play like a level of a video game.
Yeah, like, it literally feels like a video game when I'm watching these shows. It's like, they'll send in the one guy, he'll fight him. Then they'll send in the next guy, then he'll fight him. And if you're going to call back to Western culture, there is that scene in Westerns where the entire town is surrounding them with the guns, and they go, like, let's do our last stand. Yeah, the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, where it's like you run out of the door, like, ready to accept your death to fight, like, 1 versus 100. These shows didn't do that. They, like, implied it that, like, this is what it is, but no, it was a video game. It was we beat the Pike sort of minions. Now we have to fight the droids. We beat the droids' final boss, Cad Bane or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Who wasn't that difficult to kill.
He really wasn't.
I'm pretty sure in the show he's, like, notoriously difficult to kill. And he just kind of, like, gloats over him, and then whoops, he has melee weapons.
Yeah.
Another really shitty, childish Chekhov's gun. He's trained this whole time with this stick.
Oh, I know.
Aha, I have a stick. And they're like, I was a little curious, and I went back, and I was wrong. I completely forgot about the stick, and it really felt like in a lot of shots, he just wasn't carrying his stick with him.
Yeah. I doubt that he was. It was definitely...
Like, added in post?
Like, no, it's not even that. It was definitely very situational. Like, it was there basically as a token to remind you that he had this experience with the Tuskens.
Yeah.
Like, sort of implying this shamanistic type of mysticism.
Yeah, but it's a big stick for beating people over the head.
Yeah, no, I know. But the ceremony where they, like, made it, it just is...
It just felt very weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
And, like, though Boba Fett himself isn't, like, a white guy, it feels very white savior trope. Or he shows up to these Tuskens, because it's like...
Oh, yeah, that's true. He is definitely their savior.
Within Star Wars,
that doesn't go well.
There's one thing that happens, I think, within Star Wars, and within fantasy movies and games and stuff as well, where there is diversity within the humans, but then it's always the humans that are saving the aliens. And so it still feels like a white savior trope, because it is implied and very strongly thematically put into these things that the aliens are based off of real world cultures. And so when your humans, though not white, enter these alien cultures and save them, it still, to me, feels like a white savior trope.
Yeah, that's because the, like, implied standard of these humans is white American.
Exactly. And so when your aliens have these, like, tropes where they are living in the Dune Sea and, like, digging for water, and you're implying that they have this connection to, like, maybe, like, other cultures that are in real world with these sticks, like, those sticks I feel like are based off of something in real life.
I'm sure they are.
Dancing around a fire is something that every culture probably has.
Yeah.
And then you have this guy who's like, I just shoot guns. It feels very Western American culture. Shows up, saves them from the evil train.
Right.
It's a white savior trope to me.
Right.
Though he's not a white guy, to me, it's a white savior trope.
Well, and that's why I'm saying, because the standard norm in these, the, like, perspective that we see things through is based on, like, the white American perspective.
Yeah. And it's really funny that, like, throughout all of Star Wars, the Empire have been British people.
Yeah.
It's like this weird, like, America versus Britain, like, story.
No, but, like, their uniforms and stuff are, like, very heavily implied Nazi.
Oh, yeah, that too. But they always talk with the British accent.
They do, yeah.
It's weird. It's like this hate of other cultures. I mean, I guess England and America aren't, like, so dramatically different that to say that.
Yeah.
In Germany also.
Well, I mean, this all goes back to the American attitude towards the Revolutionary War. Yeah. Really. Where you... and to independence, obviously. I mean, I'm sorry, this is like a history lesson now.
Well, it's important because, like, this is why I think Boba Fett sucked, is because it was trying to pull on these themes from 7 different things, and it never settled on one, and never did any of them well.
Yeah, you're right. I hate that trope where basically a white guy wanders into the desert, finds a society...
Or shamans.
Yeah, and like basically teaches them something, they teach him something, and then he ends up saving them, and then they like make him the leader.
Yeah, and then they all get wiped out, and he has to go on a vengeance quest.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty awful.
It's super awful, and it's so boring.
It gets done a lot.
Motivating people purely with the driving force of we've killed someone you care about is the most boring motivation in the world, because then that character cannot develop further. Mm-hmm. You immediately halt any character development. Mm-hmm. This is why I think I liked John Wick. I think John Wick works really well as a revenge movie because they do 2 things with flipping the script. His wife is dead before the movie even starts. Mm-hmm. This is not about him getting vengeance for his wife. So his wife isn't a character within the scope of this story.
Yeah.
The other thing they do is they talk about him in the way that they talk about villains in movies. And I'm talking about this mostly because I think Boba Fett could have done a really good job of having him be this John Wick of the Star Wars universe. This character that it's like, holy fuck, that's Boba Fett. Because that's how people feel about Boba Fett when you talk about Boba Fett. Oh, fuck, it's Boba Fett. When he showed up in The Mandalorian, the internet was like, holy fuck, it's Boba Fett. And everyone was like, okay. We've never seen him do anything that is him earning that reverence, that level of like, holy shit, that's this person. And have you seen John Wick?
No.
I'm going to talk about John Wick for a little while because it's important to talk about why John Wick works. The first time we see John Wick, he doesn't seem too... important. He doesn't seem like he's got much going on. He just seems like a guy who's traumatized about the death of his wife. Mm-hmm. The bad guys show up. They beat him up and kill his dog. They steal his car. Mm-hmm. Then suddenly we get the view of the crime people. The guy who stole the car shows up at this car dealership going like, hey, I stole this car. Check it out. And then the guy's like, where the fuck did you get that car? And he's like, oh, some idiot was just like, I saw it at a gas station. I broke into his house and stole his car. And then he's like, oh, okay, cool. You stole his car. What else did you do? Oh, I killed his dog. And he's like, okay, cool. He punches him in the face and goes, get the fuck out of my shop. Get this car away from me. You don't know what you've done. Mm-hmm. And you're like, what? What just happened? Because this guy who stole the car is like, he's implied to be like a crime boss. He's sort of like the Bib Fortuna of this show.
Sure.
Then we see the real crime boss, this like Russian like guy who's very intimidating. And he's like, why did you hit my son? Like, what the fuck did you do that for? I'm going to like kill you basically. And then he's like, well, I'm going to tell you why I hit your son. Because he stole John Wick's car and he killed his dog. And the guy goes, okay, hangs up. And he goes, do you know what you've done, son? You've killed us all. Everyone here is going to die. There's nothing you or me or anyone here can do about it. Dang. And you've ruined everything.
Wow.
And it sounds like they're talking about this villain, this monster, this like, he's like, they call him the Baba Yaga, literally.
Sure, yeah.
And then the whole show is just John Wick just sweeping the floor, killing everyone, getting to this guy to be like, I'm going to kill you. And then he kills him.
Wow.
And that's the whole movie. It's just John Wick kicking the shit out of everyone. Mm-hmm. And so they imply he's this force of nature that you cannot stop. And then they show him doing it. Mm-hmm. Boba Fett could have learned a million lessons from that, because Boba Fett was set up perfectly to be a John Wick type character, that everyone loves him and has this reverence for him. We've never seen him do anything.
Yeah. Back to like killing people as motivation. I don't know about you, but like if someone killed someone close to me, my thoughts would not be to revenge. I would be too busy like staying in bed for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
well, I mean, that's sort of what these shows are about, is that like revenge fantasy, you know?
Yeah.
You get to do something about it. But
like I would be the opposite of motivated. I would be destroyed. Like I don't understand the death of a loved one as motivation to do anything.
I don't
besides
understand it.
Cry in your bed for the rest of your life.
Because like I personally love action movies, and I love action. When we LARP, I mostly am enjoying the fighting. We've talked about it in the past. We LARP. When I think about revenge, and I haven't personally had anything too bad happen to me where I've like had that moment of like no one close to me has been killed by another or something like that. So I can't draw on real world examples. But if you think about how it happens and how it plays out in real life, that just doesn't happen. Like no one goes out on these revenge killing sprees and, you know, gets the justice that the world didn't give them. Pardon me. And so though it's like this cool revenge fantasy that, you know, some people have, it feels unrealistic, and it's feeling more and more unrealistic the more and more it happens, because that's going to be picked up.
Yeah.
There are real world examples of like, you know, someone's daughter was killed and then they're in the courthouse and
right, and they shoot the guy or something like that.
No, I'm talking about the opposite. Like, yes, that has happened, stuff like that. But I mean, where the person goes like, I understand that, like, you didn't kill this person because you're this like, you know, crime boss that's like trying to take over the world. Like, you're just a troubled and problematic person, and you need help. And so like, get help, and like, I have the power to forgive you. And that is, when you watch those things, that's what gets me like crying.
True. Yeah.
That moment of like accepting that these people are humans. That is hard to play out in a piece of fiction. But I think if you're not going to do that, I don't want the motivation to be like, you killed my friend, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
It's this cycle of violence that is just boring at this point.
Yeah. I think that's really the main thing, is that the first 4 episodes, which were Book of Boba Fett, bored me so much.
Yeah.
I think we got through like episode 1 and I was like, wait, that was only episode 1? I feel like we've been sitting here for 3 hours.
Yeah. And so like, if you're going to have this, one thing I'd like to go back a little bit, to have this cycle of violence be the plot is like fine. Like John Wick is a good movie, and like, yes, they killed his dog, so he's killing them type thing. So that is a cycle of violence again as a story point. But if you're gonna then imply that your character is this like pacifist, basically not pacifist, he's like this shaman, like we must do what's best for our culture type thing. And he doesn't always resort to violence, even though a situation calls for violence in this story setting, a cycle of violence type story setting.
Yeah.
And so it just feels stupid. It feels like, why does this character have this reverence of this badass? He should be revered as this like, oh, you can trust Boba Fett. He's a good guy, you know? He's got your back. Like that I would totally believe if everyone talked about Boba Fett in that way. Like, Boba Fett, he's just a cool dude. He helped us get rid of crime in our city. Like, yeah, but that's not the way you want to talk about Boba Fett. You want to talk about the Mandalorian like that. He's like, he's the mercenary that doesn't just kill you. He's the mercenary that
I think I understand what happened here. I think I kind of get it. So you basically, Western culture is very individualistic, right? But sometimes when they interpret other cultures that have a more collective philosophy, they end up sort of making their characters into this weird caricature.
Yeah.
Where, like, so he went into this society, and they were definitely very collective, but people who grow up in the Western world don't really understand what it's like to be part of a collective society. And so they end up making their characters like weird pacifists who are just like, let's all work together, because it's just a very surface interpretation of a collective society. Like, collectivism doesn't suddenly mean that you're a pacifist, right? Like, I think that's one of the big misconceptions and misunderstandings and misinterpretations.
I think it's simpler than that. I feel like what happened here is Boba Fett was a bad guy character who was set up to be a bad person.
Yeah.
Then they wanted to make him a good character, and so they went, here are the good character plot elements.
Yeah.
So just like drown him in those so that everyone accepts that he's a good guy.
But the implication is that like his time with the Tuskens changed him.
Yeah, but I just mean in a more like basic sense of like, this is why this happened.
I know. Like, I'm saying like that's why this happened, but the mode of that happening was his time with the Tuskens.
Yeah.
And it's just a misinterpretation of a collectivist society.
I think the director of this show, Robert Rodriguez, I'm pretty sure I've never seen something that he's done that was good. I was talking about this while we were watching it. That like, oh, this was made by Robert Rodriguez. I'm pretty sure I've never seen a good movie of his. So I'm looking through his catalog right now. Alita Battle Angel. I don't know if you ever saw that. It's an anime adaptation. Some people liked it. Most people hated it, I think. I haven't seen it, so I don't really have an opinion. From Dusk Till Dawn, this series, also never saw it.
Yeah, I never saw it.
Sin City, though stylistically interesting, not a very good movie. Machete Kills, never saw it, looked ridiculous. Spy Kids 4.
You know, out of his whole repertoire, Spy Kids 4 is probably the only one that I've seen.
You've seen Spy Kids 4?
I probably have.
Did that have this? I think that was a different cast. I don't know that you've seen...
Look, you don't understand. My brother was 7 or 8 when that movie came out. He was the perfect demographic for Spy Kids 4. I have seen Spy Kids 4.
This one?
Yep.
Because it's got none of the original... I remember Spy Kids 1 and 2 because that came out when I was a kid.
Sure. But then my brother was a kid when, I ended up watching a lot of...
Planet Terror. That was a weird movie. I never saw it, but I remember hearing about it. Once Upon a Time in Mexico. I think that was a pretty good movie. Mm-hmm. I only saw bits of it, but I remember everyone really liking it.
Well, he also did Spy Kids and Spy Kids 2, so you have seen something by him.
Oh, interesting. But those are kids' movies. Yeah, Desperado's in the same
You know what? They
series.
were actually pretty good kids' movies, though. I remember being entertained as a child.
I remember mostly caring about the technology that they had.
Yeah.
I thought it was very cool. The like random gadgets.
Yeah, exactly. Kids love gadgets.
Yeah. It seems like he's done a lot of Westerns. Desperado, Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Well, in that case, I can see why they hired him.
I can see why they hired him. I think he maybe has lost it. I don't think this was a very good Western. I don't think this was what I think of when I think of Westerns.
I doubt that he was given the creative freedom that...
Yeah, it was Disney, you're right.
Yeah, Disney, as you know, is just very oppressive in general. But also, you have to remember that halfway through, this switches back to The Mandalorian.
Yeah, and that's really weird. I think something must have happened here. Something behind the scenes must have happened, I think. I think halfway through, my fan theory is halfway through filming this, Disney came and was like, we want more Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And Jon Favreau, the guy who makes Mandalorian, was like, I didn't plan anymore. And then they were like...
Yeah, and they were just like, make it work.
Make it work,
don't care.
yeah.
Yeah, Disney is like that. It really ends up meaning that their content is really hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Encanto was great, but then I just found out that they did a film called Raya and the Last Dragon.
Yeah.
And it was a mess. Like, it just...
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything that I liked about Encanto, the representation, the way that they... integrated culture in a way that like felt very natural. It was the exact opposite of Raya and the Last Dragon, where it just felt very like tokenism. very much like tokenism. And so it just ends up being very hit or miss with Disney lately. And I just don't understand what's happening there.
I really don't understand because on their platform, they do have a lot of mature content. Like they have the Predator movies, which are very, very gory movies.
Yeah. They also have Criminal Minds on their platform.
They have Criminal Minds. So they do have under their umbrella, like, violent movies.
I think the idea is that everything that Disney itself produces is meant to be for children, which is
awful.
Yeah, it makes for things that are not very good because not everything is for children.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that Star Wars, in its original renditions, though had a lot of kid themes because it was a lot older, had very mature things that happened. People lost their arms.
It's true. I mean, Leia was a sex slave for a little while, like sort of.
Oh yeah, with Jabba in the palace.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was like, when did that happen? And also in the first movie, like within the first like half an hour, someone gets their arm cut off, and it like hovers on it with like blood coming out of the arm, and then also someone gets shot at point blank range by one of the main hero characters,
and then Anakin goes under like horrific burns, right?
Yeah, they never show him.
No, but like it's a pretty mature theme.
They ended up showing it.
Burn injuries are a pretty mature theme. I don't think that's for children.
Yeah, and your parents, like the more mature theme is he goes back to like see his aunt and uncle, and they're literally smoldering corpses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, Star Wars is not just for kids.
Kills his pregnant wife.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's dark.
It's dark. There's lots of dark stuff. Give us more dark Star Wars, because it's like when you do that, it doesn't make it not for kids, you know?
It's not even that. It's the fact that Star Wars had a certain thematic culture, and now they're trying to retrofix it, basically.
Yeah. It really started with Jar Jar Binks, didn't it? That whole, like, started the ball rolling towards kids' movies.
It doesn't... Sorry, I thought you were going to sneeze. It doesn't necessarily make sense, right? Like, when you put it all together into one universe, it doesn't make sense, and that's really why.
Yeah, and that's sort of where this falls the most flat, is because there could be a world where there's kids Star Wars and adult Star Wars, and you have like, okay, we know that they're making a show about the Outer Rim, so it's going to be mature. We know they're making a show about Grogu training with the Jedi. This is going to be a kids movie. Instead of trying to force it all into one, separate it.
Yeah.
Give us if you're not going to do it well, and you're just going to give us the kids stuff while saying like, ooh, it's mature, then split it up.
Yeah.
Give me the choice.
Or just be overtly for children.
Yeah, really. Just give us the, like, I'm the crime boss, you know?
Yeah.
Have them go around, like, paw patrolling and, like, tutting the crime bosses for selling drugs.
I mean, they did
things right.
do that, right? Like, they had these short films, which are, like, the women of Star Wars, and they, like, basically had a pet companion. Yeah. And went and rescued their pet companion. Like, it was definitely aimed at children. I don't even think adults watched those. So, like, it's fine to split up your content that way.
Yeah, I think the general consensus, though, is this should have been just about Boba Fett. It should have just been about him taking over the crime empire, and it would have been better. Yeah. And because it wasn't, the best part of this was everything not to do with Boba Fett.
I think what they're finding is that Star Wars as content isn't very interesting for children. And this is a big problem for Disney, because Disney capitalizes on children, right? They do toy tie-ins, they do like Happy Meals, they do like, you know, it just ends up being that they can't advertise Star Wars to children. And the way to fix this is to convince the parents to watch the show. Because if the parents are watching the show, then the kids will watch the show. And then if the kids are watching the show and being influenced by their parents to be like, wow, look, this is so great, then they'll buy the toys, right?
Yeah.
Or the parents will watch the show and they'll be like, oh, I have a niece who's 5. I bet she'd love this new Star Wars Grogu plushie. Right? Like...
Yeah. Grogu really has taken over a lot of the world lately. Like, it's going to be the kind of thing where, like, Grogu toys will be selling into the far future.
Yeah. And that's really what it is. They're trying to market to children through adults.
Yeah.
Which sucks. Yeah, I don't know. It just it does. It sucks.
I think that's basically it.
Yeah.
That's Book of Boba Fett. It was not very good. I mean, I'd maybe recommend watching the last 3 episodes because, like, some of the stuff that happened was cool.
Especially if you plan on watching the next Mandalorian show, which there will be inevitably, because you'll be a little lost, I guess, if you don't watch those 3 episodes. A lot happened.
They might sum it up.
They'll probably do
in the same way that they kind of summed up what happened with Boba Fett in the first episode within... like what happened in The Mandalorian. Like, you didn't have to go watch The Mandalorian to figure out why Boba Fett is
Yeah, but
here.
if you are interested in watching The Mandalorian, you might as well.
Yeah, you might as well. It's cool Mandalorian stuff.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
pretty interesting.
It was the best part of the show.
Yeah.
Which is a little sad because those episodes didn't even have Boba Fett in them.
Yeah.
And like I said at the beginning of this, it's a little sad to be the titular character and still be the B-plot.
Yeah, to be in, like, maybe half of your own show.
It's a little over half. 4 out of 7 episodes.
Yeah. 2/3.
Yeah. So, that sucks.
It sucks. I'm not too surprised though. What's our engagement question? What should we ask our audience?
Wow. I find it tough to be engaged in this.
Which Star Wars side character would you have a spin-off of, besides, obviously, characters that have been in the mainline Star Wars?
That's a good question.
So no Luke Skywalker, no Ahsoka Tano.
You know what? I'm excited about Obi-Wan.
No Obi-Wan.
No, I mean, because, like you said, he's already getting a spin-off.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's a valid answer to be like The Mandalorian. He's the only character I care about.
But yeah, I am kind of excited to see the Obi-Wan spin-off.
Yeah. Is there a character they introduced in Book of Boba Fett that you would think you'd want to know more about? Let's say they release a short comic book about them. Who would you want it?
Not introduced in Book of Boba Fett.
Okay.
But the Marshal.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, I don't even remember his name. I'm terrible with names. It's not his fault.
I can look it up. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, the Marshal.
The Marshal. Yeah. I think everyone will know what you're talking about.
Everyone will know who I'm talking about. The Marshal. I think he's funny. I love a sort of like cop comedy. Mm-hmm. Cop comedies are fun. I like them.
Yeah. I'm upset that they've done this 2 or 3 times now, where someone gets shot and presumed dead, and then just throw them in the back to chamber and they're fine, and now they're back. It's like it feels very unwilling to kill a character.
I may have written it down. Cobb Vanth.
Cobb Vanth, yeah. Yeah, he's cool. You want a Cobb Vanth spin-off?
Yeah, not a whole show.
Lone Ranger kind of thing?
Yeah, sort of a cop comedy.
Yeah.
Maybe he gets a droid sidekick.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think...
And I want it firmly aimed at the 10 to 12 age range.
Yeah.
I don't want any of this confusing messaging. I want it to just be comedy, and I want it to be a comedy cop show with an adorable sidekick companion.
Yeah. I think that's so easy because droids, they do a good job of making the droids pretty adorable.
Yeah, exactly. I think that'd be great.
I think I want a blood sport style action movie with Chrysanthemum.
Gladiator battle.
Yeah, it's just him making, because they said he was a gladiator.
Yeah, he's in the Rancor pit.
Yeah,
and he just gets tossed in these people that he has to fight.
Yeah, I think it could be cool. Really, a very Dark Chewbacca versus the wildest monsters of the galaxy type thing. Sort of in Star Wars Episode 2, that arena they had on Geonosis with the weird monster aliens that they send out. I think it could be cool. You could have him fight against all sorts of people, and you don't even have to have that much of a plot. Literally, just take the plot of like Bloodsport. Like, oh, this is like fighting championship.
Yeah, it could be like a prequel. This is like his backstory, and then he has to get free.
Yeah. Or just ends with him getting like sold to the Jabbas.
Yeah.
The Hutts.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Or maybe the Jabbas of the Hutts have a gladiator arena.
Yeah.
Where they like use him for blood sport.
Yeah. That's what I want to see. So you, our listener, what character do you want to spin off of? I can't speak. I just got new braces in.
Oh, he looks very cute.
I always look cute. What character do you want to spin off of? And no main characters.
Yeah.
Unless you're like, all these characters sucked. And then tell us why. Tell us how you would if you're going to go with the main characters, tell us how you would spin them off in a different theme. So if you're like, I want a Mandalorian show, not a Western. Tell us how you'd spin it off into like a romantic comedy or something like that. Other than that, thanks for listening.
Yeah. Bye.